Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maximo, and I've picked up my Switch again. At least a little bit. Not entirely, but I just thought that, well, there might be some interesting games coming out, so I'll take a look. And I found a couple of things. I found that this bloody game was on there. Yeah, we're going to be doing that one. And I'm also going to be checking out Legacy of the Duelist and Project Nimbus at some point in the next couple of weeks. But I just wanted to start from here, mainly because I found something that I thought was amusing in the startup sequence, and I forgot to turn my actual volume down. There we go. Animu game. I don't know why, I just think that's kind of hilarious. Like, that's the best statement of intent I've seen in a while. It literally says Animu game during the startup screen. But yes, this is Panty Party. PlayAsia has been pushing this one massively, and well, I got it thanks to them, so I'm going to have to do the usual advertisement spiel. If you want to support me and what I do, there's a link in the description and a coupon. Use both, and you will help me out and save a little bit of money on your order, whatever it may be. Let's just not make it this one. So, there are some options here, but there's one particular one that I want to point out is just missing completely, and that is the fact that you can't turn down the sensitivity of the right analog stick. It's all over the damn place, and it's also kind of unfortunate because, well, it's related to some of the control difficulties as well. All of this should be pretty obvious except for auto-lock multiplayer, but once you see a little bit of the main game's gameplay, you'll understand what that is. And I've got the difficulty down on easy because all the higher difficulties do is make it so that you take more damage. It doesn't even make the enemy AI smarter, it just means you take more hits. It's that simple, really, so there's nothing really too much to worry about there. So, of course, there is a story mode. I'm not going to bother even letting you listening to the voice acting because it's pretty average, but yes, you do have to pick the peonies beforehand, and we'll get to why these are important shortly. I'm going to go with Haruka because, yes. So, there is a plot, and it's utterly ridiculous. Humans can turn into panties if they have an, I think they say it's an equal love for all panties, or something like that, just an intense love for underwear. It makes no sense. It really doesn't. Also, the way they actually portray the story is kind of ridiculous. Like, this is okay, this whole visual novel style is okay, but look at the text down the bottom of the screen. It enlarges and shrinkens at will, and it makes nearly no sense why. Why does it do that? Just have one font. It's not like the text gets bigger or smaller depending on whether they enunciate or they do things like shout or something like that. Or as there's one particular funny word for it, ejaculate. But for whatever reason, it just gets bigger and smaller for no reason, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to read just because of how bits expand and contract for no reason whatsoever. Also, yes, this one's literally called Idiot Panty. I'm not entirely sure why. They don't particularly make Baka Panty look like an idiot, but shrug. Also, yeah, one thing I want to point out that shows they've almost never actually played a bloody visual novel. For whatever reason, auto is a settings menu option instead of just to press a button and go through it automatically here. No, I don't know why either. It's just absolutely bizarre. Also, the writing isn't very good. The localization is very... well, it definitely feels like it's been done by a first timer or someone with very little experience. Some of the lines make absolutely no sense in English. Not many, but they're there and they're notable. There's your controls, by the way. You don't get very much time to let them sink in, but they do give you a tutorial. Now look how fast the analog stick fucking moves. Holy shit, this is almost impossible to control. It's kind of helped out by the fact that there's an auto lock-on if you get close enough, but, well, the auto lock-on sucks for other reasons that we'll get onto. So, yes, this is the game. Move with the left analog stick, you can strafe left and right in order to avoid attacks via the L and R buttons. ZL will activate your passion, which I can't do at the moment, and your main weapons are on the X, Y, and A buttons. For example, with Haruka's panties here, my X attack is a bear boxing punch combo that will mostly kill enemies in one shot. So yes, you basically just gotta land as many hits as possible in order to kill these panties. These are grunts, more or less. They're the Zaku 2s of Panty Party. And there's a reason why I bring up Zaku 2 specifically, because, well, it's another Gundam versus clone, or an Extreme versus clone, or just a Gundam versus Gundam clone, which whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. And it's a very poor one. There's a reason for this. So you might notice that when you look at a particular enemy, it locks onto them. This is because this is the only way you can realistically hit your targets, because you need to be able to lock onto them in order to actually hit them, because the sensitivity is so incredibly high that it's just an absolute pain in the neck to actually control what you're doing. The problem is, it's a soft lock and it only applies over a short distance, which means it can be absolutely impossible to keep certain enemies on screen at any one time. I might as well just take out the rest of these bloody things. Unfortunately, my machine gun is my only effective ranged weapon with this character, therefore I have to wait for it to reload every now and again. You can, of course, dodge to the left and right, but the way some of these attacks work is that they're almost impossible to predict coming in time. So they are incredibly hard to dodge. Thankfully, your health bar is huge, but that doesn't actually help you out as much as you might think. Yes, they do chime in with little bits of commentary a lot. That is a thing. Don't ask me why. They just do that. So basically, you have to get really close in order to actually stand a chance at hitting them, because you know how in Gundam, well, actually, if you haven't played Gundam Versus, you won't know how this works, but in Gundam Versus, they have this thing that you can do where if you hold the attack button down for a certain length of time, at least with some ranged weaponry, not all, but some, where if you hold the button down, it will let you track where your opponent is going, so that any ranged weapon can actually be aimed ahead of time and therefore actually hit once you sense that the opponent is about to give up a free hit for you. In this game, they don't do that, which makes ranged attacks mostly a pain in the ass to hit. Yep, I just went into passion mode there, which sometimes swaps out attacks, but just mainly makes you more powerful and faster. Unfortunately, I didn't hit the score all the time, so I didn't unlock the character from this. This is the main way you unlock characters for the arcade mode and, well, the story mode. In multiplayer, most of them are pretty much unlocked immediately. But yes, it allows you to aim ahead of time in Gundam Versus, and that mechanic does not exist here, so aiming and shooting range attacks is actually kind of annoying, because any modicum of movement whatsoever from any enemy means that they will just happily move out of the way without a worry in the world. I really need to figure out why my bloody encoder just hates me for some reason. It does fine for frames upon frames upon frames, and then all of a sudden it just skips a bunch of frames all at the same time. It's all weird. But yeah, that's generally how the story mode works. It's a small level with a bunch of grunts and usually a boss. And then once you have beaten the boss, it ends, and you can get extra characters if you manage to do it like that. So it's saying I need to play with Haruka again, but if I want to. But let's go and have a look at some of these other panties, just to show you what the difference is between them. So they all have different attacks, as you can see in the top right, and the ones down in blue are the ones that are swapped out when you go into passion mode. It's a little bizarre, I must admit. There are also some weaker ones, as you can see. Some of the, well, I guess we'll call them grunts. Some of the grunts have 3 lives, and you can tell that that's something they've ripped from Gundam Versus or Gundam Extreme Versus or whatever, because the weaker ones got less penalty on the score. So you can tell that's something they've nicked from there. It's a little bit bizarre, I gotta say. But we'll go with the Sailor, because why not? And I'm just gonna skip the rest of the story, because who the hell cares? Of course, melee combos also end in the same way. You get a few hits in and then they'll just get knocked over and get instant shielded. I don't believe this is the case with this character, though. Yep, it's probably going to be just mostly ranged. Which tends to be, even with the game kind of having a problem with ranged aiming, thanks to this weird lock system, it still ends up being more effective just to hit shit from as far away as humanly possible, because this way you can't get damaged. In hard mode, you take so much damage, you want to be as far away from them as possible, and well, that just kind of sucks. They just stuck me in the middle of it, didn't they? You know, let's get out the heavy naval gun. I guess the upside with this character is that they don't get knocked over, so you just don't have to back away and hope for the best. You do also get a little bit of... You also do get a little bit of invincibility time when you turn on passion mode, but it's not much. So, basically be ready to move as soon as you're done. So yeah, the game basically just reduces itself to this. Just run around for a little bit, maybe use the strafe buttons, but frankly there's no real need. And it takes away good amounts of stamina that you can use for things like jumping as well, which is incredibly annoying. But yeah, as you can see here, since I can't aim ahead, it's actually kind of a pain in the ass to actually get a good hit in. There is no guard as far as I can tell. And yeah, that's more or less it. Like, the only difference between all the different pennies, other than just some different stats between them, depending on how you're feeling that day, it's just different weaponry, and that's it. Can't even get out of this. How the hell do I get out of this? There we go. See, it's making me a lot faster, and I can also shoot a fair bit quicker. But unfortunately, since I backed away beyond a certain point, I lost my soft lock, and attack ranges in this game are not great. Very short. So yeah, since I didn't clear with the right character, I didn't get the spare. No one cares about the story. So yeah, that was the story. What is the arcade mode like? Well, I hate to burst your bubble on that one, but it's basically exactly the same damn thing. Alright, we'll play as Eureka, why not? So you can see that I've also already unlocked an ending over here, which is basically just meant to be another... Yeah, see, look at that. What's that line break about? Right there. Why is that there? I have no idea. That is bizarre. But yeah, it's nothing but sweet nothings being uttered into your ear. Very unusual. Don't care, I'm gonna skip the rest. They'll put me back out to the arcade screen, and we can give it a go. So yeah, I've played through one route here. As you can see, there are multiple routes, each with a cutscene at the end. And judging purely by the contents of that one, I imagine that none of them are really worth the effort either. So let's go. Another thing I want to point out is that the game's performance is absolutely atrocious. Now, it hasn't looked that bad in the footage that I've been showing you, but certain levels, at certain view angles, can make this game's frame rate drop into the single digits. It is one of the most unoptimized games I've played in a long time. Like, I've played games like... I played Devious Dungeon 2 not that long ago. Like, it was a couple of days ago at this point, but by the time you see this, it might be like almost a week. And that game's performance issues were nothing compared to how bad this game can get. Again, it really depends on the level, so I'm just going to have to wait and see if I can actually... See, look at that. If anything, the fact that the analog stick sensitivity is so high and the fact that the auto lock-on can't track the one fucking dude in the area for shit They kind of work well together, but they're both shit mechanics, so there's really no excuse. Yep. It's kind of annoying when the attack swaps out, so you end up thinking, how do I use this attack again? Is animation... Like, what is this supposed to be? Like, what is this supposed to be? If this was an emote, what would it be named? I cannot tell you. Please don't ask me to. So, yeah, we just move on to the next stage then. Yep, this is one of the stages. Now, it looks like it's going okay here, right? Like, the movement is smooth enough. And it's definitely fine. Playable. Not amazing, but I'll take it. Especially considering how low intensity the game is. But now if I turn this way, look at that. Slideshow Central. Then back this way and it's fine. And back this way. Yeah, I kind of have to be close to the edge, don't I? Yep, there we go. Ooh. And then followed by this. Ooh. Yep, you can kind of tell. You can tell, it's bad. It's really bad. However, the overall combat just isn't that exciting. The overall combat just isn't that exciting because the movesets get really repetitive. Like, every one of these panties... This is going to be an absolutely impossible sentence to take seriously, but hear me out here. Every one of these panties has a worse moveset than the Gundam Mark II Titans in Gundam Versus. So, it's just bizarre. So, they all have really lightweight movesets that aren't particularly interesting, and honestly, there's no real point learning them due to the fact that some of the wind-ups are so quick, they're almost impossible to dodge. And... yeah. There's no, like, push the button another way to do another kind of melee hit. There's no real combos except, like, really simple ones. Like, spin impulse into just a regular melee combo is about as complicated as you're going to get in this game. And as I said before, all the difficulty does is really increase the damage you take. So... it doesn't make the game any more interesting. The AI doesn't get any better, it just gets stronger. So, very, very light on the gameplay side of things. We do have one more mode to go into, and that's the multiplayer. And I thought to myself, is this going to be online multiplayer? I really should have checked the store page, but when I hit the multiplayer, nope, as it turns out, it's just local. So, there's only one mode as well. It's basically, everybody gets 2 or 3 lives, depending on the character that you bring in. And, yeah, you can pick any map you want. Let's try and pick one that we haven't seen yet. We'll do the cargo one. Thankfully, you can see all of the different kinds of... yeah, it's silly. It's really silly. You can see all of them here. Oh, and that's how you unlock the 2 extra ones there. Well, that's kind of neat. Just a little bit. Not much, but it's still kind of neat. So yeah, you can choose whether or not they'll be on any of 4 individual teams, which is weird, because the maximum amount of player count you can have is 4 anyway, so it's not like it matters. But yeah, you can either do teams, or free-for-all, or just however you see fit. And it's just... everybody has the amount of lives their character has, and once everyone except one has run out of lives, that's it. Game's done. This mode does also have auto lock, which also locks on way out of the regular distance, which is interesting, but also a bit of a pain in the neck. Mainly because of the fact that most of your attacks are really short range. So, yeah, Haruka's kicking my ass here. Mainly because I can't get the hell away from it. Damn. But bollocks. So yeah, 4-player combat is just about as ridiculous as the rest of it. Also, you can't swap lock-on while you're in this. You have to turn the lock-on off, and then you have to turn it back on. Which, well, it's not really that. It just, you press the ZR button and it changes the target you're locking onto. Which is stupid, because you might want to be focusing on someone in particular, but no, the amount of time you might need to swap between lock-ons to get to the character who's actually threatening you. Like, see that? I wanted to focus on the one in front of me, but I couldn't do that. And since I wanted to focus on the one next to me there, I couldn't do that either. And I'm basically just getting my shit rocked. I'm also apparently supposed to be unbreakable. I thought that would mean that I would take basically... What the fuck is this AI doing? I thought that would mean that I don't get knocked down or something, but I don't know exactly what it means here. I really don't. Oh, that one went down too. And they've both lost their lives already, so it's just me and this other dude. And I have 0 health. Fantastic. Sunshine. Lollipops and rainbows, everything is, yep. Had a feeling that was going to happen. Yep, survival, apparently, instead of winner. Yeah, that's it. There's no other modes, there's nothing like that. It's just the same thing. It's a cheap knockoff of Gundam Versus with nothing that actually makes that game good. The combat is boring due to the low amount of movesets, general movement issues, lock-on issues, and just general clunkiness. The localization is not very good, therefore it's completely forgettable, and that's the worst kind of localization. At least if it was a game like Chaos Wars, where the voice acting was so bad you could still get a laugh out of it, but no, it's just unmemorable. And while there does appear to be a decent amount of content, you'll be through most of it within a couple of hours, as pretty much I was. I don't even think I was playing this game for 2 hours before I had seen everything that was there to be seen. So, yeah. Although I will give the game credit for one thing, though. That theme song where it's talking about nothing but panties is kind of ridiculous. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say. This game is not worth your time or your money. And every time I say that about a game that PlayAsia has put a decent amount of money into making physical releases for, my future on YouTube cries a little inside. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.